Derrick Rose stole the show. Like Derrick Rose, that entire thing was just captivating from the beginning because you're right. He walks in, and I was laughing this morning. I was watching Gary Parrish's show, and I was laughing this morning. Gary Parrish's interview that they played from when he had just arrived in Memphis.
I had watched it a couple years ago too. Yep.
And like Gary has the most insane haircut of all time. It's so great. It's so perfect. Everything about it is perfect. And he's a good sport about it. He was like, man, that was such an uncomfortable interview to watch. But then to see what Derrick Rose is like now is shocking. Yeah. And we mentioned the Chicago thing. Like I know lots of people in Memphis. I didn't grow up here. But a lot of people in Memphis have this connection to Derrick. Yeah. And Derrick clearly, to this point, still does not know how much people love him here. That's obvious at this point. He's going to find out over these next few months. But people still love Derrick Rose.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And to see him sort of walk in and talk and be super honest and bring up all of, essentially, his troubles that he's had, you just don't see guys do that ever. Yeah. Almost never. And to talk about how veterans really mattered for him when he was a young player. And I grew up watching those Derrick Rose years in Chicago. Yeah. That was my Derrick Rose experience. That's what got me to love the NBA was watching him and thinking, oh my God, this is a guy I have never seen anyone play basketball like this before. And now we have sort of the second Derrick Rose watching Ja, where you can watch him on a nightly basis and you're like, oh my God, I've never seen a guy play basketball like this before, except for maybe Derrick Rose. And to have him there talking about that, talking about how he knows his mentorship is going to matter in this situation, and being really brutally honest about his own story. Yeah. The whole thing impressed me from start to finish. I could not take my attention off of Derrick Rose. He spoke for, 15 minutes? Probably.
Yeah, he was in it for a while.
He spoke longer than almost every other player. Yeah. And usually if you followed Derrick Rose's career path, you might expect him to give you a couple sentences on a question. Like he was going on and on and on about just about everything. I asked him if there's any memories that come to mind and he just went on a tangent talking about how he spends his off season with his kids and just gave this answer that was like 3 minutes long. That is not the Derrick Rose of old. Like it was impressive, really impressive.
We saw him here as a 18-year-old kid in Memphis as a freshman. You saw him as a pro when you were a Bulls fan, and I agree. That's not the same Derrick Rose that we saw, but it's crazy because I saw an interview that he did for a podcast. Can't remember the name of the show at all, but it was like a 3-hour podcast they had with Derrick Rose, and it was inside of a barbershop. And I ain't gonna lie, this was like part 2, the continuation of that podcast, because it was just more incredible stuff. Like I've never sat there and watched anything like with just one person up there talking for 3 hours. And it was Derrick Rose, and I watched that. And then being a part of the thing yesterday, like I was asking questions all day long. I didn't have nothing to ask Derrick Rose, man. I was so in awe of who he was and what he was saying. I was like, nah, I don't want to add to this at all.
And here's the thing, it's like, Derrick Rose does not come without previous troubles, right? Yeah. And most of us do. Yeah. And I think it's easier for some people to just not think about that and be like, oh my gosh, it's Derrick Rose, than it is for others. Like there are some people who I see on social media or whatever that are a little bit more hesitant to have this sort of embrace right away. Right. But nobody could listen to that yesterday
and not be
impressed.
Yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah, it was crazy stuff, man, for sure. Just to hear him out there and just being candid like he was. It was just small anecdotal things he was saying. Like he was like, "Yeah, I told Coach and Climb and all them, like I'm good, man. Don't bother me during the off season. I promise you, I'm fine." It's like, who have we had that would say that to? Like, what level of vet have we had that would say those type of things? And then also when he said that, like, he said, I kind of get what John's going through because he said it's hard to say, put a vet around this guy when you're the one who's 19, 18 years old, scoring 20-something points per game. You're better than all these dudes. Who can you really talk to? Like, I enjoyed hearing him say that as well. But it's going to be interesting. I love hearing him talk about how he's not here to be a babysitter. He has to earn the right to be heard by Ja Morant. And it seems so organic because, like, the tweet that I put out yesterday was talking about how when he said that he wanted a conversation with Ja on his own. I would love to know when that actually happened. Because I was wondering, was that after the first incident?
Mm-hmm.
Was that somewhere in between that? Was it after the second one? And like he said, he wanted to create that conversation with Ja Morant, and that led into him getting here.
I think you're right. I would love to know the answer to that question too. I don't know.
Let's ask them today. You think they'll let us get Derrick Rose?
I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. We'll see who they give us. But I do think that Zach Kleiman mentioned that there was a short list of players that they knew could come in and have an impact in the locker room. Now, Zach is not going to say Ja's name and single him out because why would he do that? Right. I mean, that's his star player. But we know that that's a big focus here. Like it's obvious.
I don't think Ja's the only one that needs a little maturing.
That's true. And that he also mentioned that Derrick Rose was on that short list and Marcus Smart was on that short list. Seems like those were two of maybe 3 or 4 guys that they really had an interest in. The other guy we heard the rumors about this summer, Draymond Green. That seems like a guy that has Ja Morant's respect.
Right.
So it seems like they were searching for the types of players that they know either Ja respects right now, and we know that Ja has a ton of respect for Derrick Rose because we saw it, the exchange in MSG last year when he took the jersey off, signed it, gave it to D Rose. D Rose says he still has it, which is a cool part of the story.
Right.
So we know that respect is there. So it makes building that relationship so much easier.
Yeah.
And we also know that Marcus Smart is a guy that's going to demand your respect. Like there's going to be it's almost impossible to not respect him because he's almost so, like, this isn't the right word, but like crazy and so intense about everything, about every practice, about every detail that you have to respect it. And to add those two guys makes a ton of sense. We were not expecting some sort of D Rose signing, but I think immediately, almost in the days afterwards, we realized like, oh wow, this is going to be
really be big.
A pairing that can really work, and we're already seeing it. I think, if you're Ja, well, let me ask you this: if you're Ja and you're at home and you're listening to what Derrick Rose had to say, what do you think you're thinking?
If I was listening to what he said yesterday,
yes,
I would
particularly about being a mentor to him.
Of course, my ego, some of that would probably bother me because, he's probably tired of hearing all that type of stuff anyway. A small part of me, my ego, he's human. You know what I mean? I think that'll bother him.
Of course.
But I would be super excited about it, man, because I know you're looking at a guy who he looks at is probably one of his GOATs. Like I talk about all the time, that when it comes to Memphis sports, Elliot Perry was the guy that introduced me to sports, period. Like Elliot Perry, if he was sitting on his chair, I would lose my mind. You know what I mean? If Elliot Perry was here. And Elliot, if you're watching, we can make that happen too. But, that's my guy. So it's all relative. To him, Derrick Rose probably was like his Michael Jordan. You know what I mean? So, or his Allen Iverson type guy or whatever. Kobe or whatever.
Kobe's Ja's guy.
But I'm just saying, though, like they're all that same tier of guy to him. So I'm sure that was a tremendous big deal for him to know that Derrick Rose is here.
I think he said all the right things. I mean, he was fair. He was honest. I mean, what else do you want from him? And again, I think that pairing is going to work. I think that they're going to work well together. And I thought it was encouraging to hear from Zach and hear from other people that they all feel like Ja's on the right track. Didn't really want to go into details, kind of what you would expect.
Yeah.
But everybody in this city just wants him to be good.
Yeah.
Like everybody in this city just wants to see him on the court playing basketball, wowing us all with his insane talent.
Right.
And it's gotten a little sidetracked, but we all want the same thing.
He's got room to grow.
We all want the same thing. And if Derrick Rose can help everybody get to that point at all, like everybody's on board. And it helps that he's Derrick Rose.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I noticed about it being there as well is both of those guys came out very clearly and said, number one thing stood out to me big time was what Derrick Rose said, I'm not a plant. That to me opened my eyes to even another layer to this that I think was interesting to me, that I'm not a plant. Like I'm not a front office plant. I'm not a Taylor Jenkins plant. I'm in here. I'm one of you. I'm one of the guys. Number two, I walked away. These two dudes just want to win and they want to still play. And you're talking about Marcus Smart and Derrick Rose. Like, what do they still have to? We know what Marcus Smart can offer. We know what Derrick Rose can do in spurts. If I was Ja, I'd be looking back going, I got some dogs on my side that just want to play.
Yep.
That just want to hoop.
And to your point, Kenny, the whole thing Derrick Rose was saying, he wasn't saying, nah, I'm not going to help Ja. He was saying the way I'm going to help Ja is not because y'all sent me here and not because y'all want me to do it. It's just because real recognize real. Like, and it's just, and real respect real. And it's going to come down to something like that. It's not going to be like where, you know, hey, Derrick, we need you to get with Ja because so-and-so, so-and-so. Nah, man, I'm already on it. You know what I mean? He's already jumped on that assignment anyway. I can't wait to see it, man. I think it's going to be great. I don't really know what he's going to contribute on the court. I would love to see some vintage-esque Derrick Rose moments. Not really sure how much of that he's got left, but
just be solid.
Yeah, I'm down for
they
whatever.
Just need him to be solid.
Whatever, yeah.
Can you imagine what the FedEx Forum is going to do when and if a vintage Derrick Rose moment happens, though?
Yeah, or if Ja does something crazy and Rose gives him the head nod of approval, like, yeah, if I can still do that, that's what I would do. Like,
yeah, right.
Yeah, something like that. That's what I want to see. I just want to see Derrick Rose giving the head nod or throw him the pass. Either one of those would be nice.